Imagine a child sitting in a quiet corner of a room, watching their family laugh and talk as if they were invisible. They reach out for love, for validation, but are met with indifference or, worse, rejection. This child grows up carrying an invisible wound, constantly questioning, why am I not enough? This is not just one person's story, it is a reality shared by many. If you have ever felt like the black sheep of your family, if you have been cast aside by those who were meant to love you unconditionally, know this: you are not alone, and this is not your fault. Today, we will dive deep into the painful truth about family rejection, why it happens, and how to break free from its emotional chains. By the end of this, you will see yourself through a new lens, one where you reclaim your power and walk your own path without shame or regret. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear might just change the way you see your life. Part 1: The unspoken truth about family rejection. Number 1: The illusion of unconditional love. From childhood, we are taught that family love is unconditional. Blood is thicker than water, they say. But what happens when that very bloodline becomes the source of your deepest wounds? What happens when the people who are supposed to love you the most become the ones who hurt you the most? For some, family love is conditional, given only when you conform to their expectations. You are loved as long as you follow their rules, agree with their beliefs, and fit into their idea of who you should be. But the moment you step outside that mold, their love becomes cold, distant, or even non-existent. It's a painful realization, but one that many people face. The idea of unconditional love within families is a comforting myth, one that allows people to ignore the emotional damage inflicted in the name of tradition, culture, or duty. Sarah grew up in a traditional household where success was defined by a high-paying job, marriage, and children. These were the milestones that measured a person's worth in her family's eyes. But Sarah's heart longed for something different. She wanted to be an artist, to express herself through painting, to live a life filled with creativity rather than financial security. The moment she chose her passion over her family's expectations, everything changed. Suddenly, she was no longer the golden child. Her parents stopped inviting her to family gatherings, her siblings saw her as a failure, and whispers of disappointment followed her wherever she went. She was left questioning whether pursuing her dream was worth the cost of losing her family's approval. At first, she tried to win back their love, explaining her choices, seeking their validation, and hoping that one day they would understand. But over time, she came to see the truth. The love she thought was unconditional had always been conditional. It was given only when she fit into their carefully crafted mold. The moment she dared to be herself, that love disappeared. Love or control. But here's the truth. Love that is only given when you comply is not love. It is control. Genuine love does not require you to shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It does not demand that you sacrifice your dreams, your identity, or your happiness just to be accepted. Many people struggle with this realization because society places so much emphasis on the idea that family should come first. We are told to honor our parents, to keep our siblings close, to maintain family ties no matter what. But what if those ties are strangling you? What if the cost of staying connected is the loss of your own authenticity? Walking away from conditional love is not easy. The guilt can be overwhelming. The longing for approval never fully fades. But there is something even more valuable than the illusion of unconditional love: self-respect. Sarah eventually found peace by surrounding herself with people who valued her for who she was, not who they wanted her to be. She built her own version of family, made up of friends, mentors, and fellow artists who encouraged her dreams instead of stifling them. Unconditional love does exist, but sometimes it is not found in the places we expect. Sometimes we must create it for ourselves, offering it first to our own hearts before seeking it in others. Number 2, rejection is often about them, not you. One of the hardest lessons to accept is that rejection is not always about you. Often, it is a reflection of the other person's inner struggles, fears, or limitations, rather than a judgment of your worth. Whether it is a rejection from a loved one, a job, or society, it frequently stems from factors beyond your control, such as their own insecurities, biases, or past experiences. Understanding this can help you detach from the emotional pain of rejection and view it with greater compassion and wisdom. Psychological perspective. Rejection as a reflection of their inner world. Rejection can often be traced back to the psychological patterns of the person rejecting you. Many people, especially parents or authority figures, project their unhealed traumas and fears onto others. If they were forced into a certain way of life, whether through cultural expectations, economic hardship, or societal pressures, they may unconsciously expect you to follow the same path. When you make different choices, it can feel threatening to them, as if you are challenging the legitimacy of their own decisions. For instance, a parent who sacrificed their dreams for financial stability may struggle to support a child who chooses an unconventional career. Their rejection may not be about the child's abilities or worth, but rather about their own unresolved regrets or fears of failure. Similarly, a friend who distances themselves after you start prioritizing your mental health and boundaries may not actually dislike you. They may simply feel uncomfortable facing their own lack of boundaries. Rejection is often intertwined with the human need for control. Many people resist what they do not understand because it threatens their sense of order and stability. If someone is used to you being a certain way, always available, always agreeable, they may reject you when you begin to change. This is not because you have done something wrong, but because they relied on your compliance to maintain their comfort. Have you ever noticed that some family members start treating you differently the moment you begin asserting yourself? This is because your silence and compliance made their world feel predictable. When you start setting boundaries, it forces them to confront the fact that they cannot control you, and that can be unsettling. Instead of adapting, some people respond by withdrawing or rejecting you. Rather than seeing rejection as a reflection of your flaws, consider it as redirection towards something better suited for you. Each rejection teaches you about who truly values you, who is willing to grow with you, and where you are meant to invest your energy. It also frees you from relationships, jobs, or situations that do not align with your authentic self. A workplace that rejects your ideas may simply not be the right place for your creativity. A friend who pulls away when you prioritize self-care may not have been a true supporter of your well-being. The pain of rejection is real, but so is the growth that comes from learning to let go of what no longer serves you. By shifting your perspective, you move from feeling victimized by rejection to seeing it as a natural part of life's journey, one that leads you closer to people and experiences that truly appreciate you for who you are. Number 3, the cost of staying small to fit in. Many people spend their entire lives trying to fit into the expectations placed upon them by their families, communities, or society at large. They suppress their true desires, adjust their personalities, and make choices that do not align with their inner selves, all in an effort to maintain harmony and avoid disapproval. The need for acceptance can be so strong that it leads to a life of self-sacrifice, emotional distress, and unrealized potential. At first, the price of staying small may seem manageable, choosing a stable career instead of one that excites you, silencing your opinions to avoid conflict, or following traditional life paths even when they don't bring fulfillment. But over time, the weight of these compromises accumulates, leading to regret, resentment, and even a loss of self-identity. Michael grew up in a family that valued stability above all else. From a young age, he was taught that success meant finding a secure job, starting a family, and staying close to home. His parents often emphasized that family loyalty was the most important virtue, and any deviation from their expectations was seen as a betrayal. Deep inside, however, Michael felt a longing for something different. He was fascinated by different cultures and dreamed of traveling the world, meeting new people, and experiencing life beyond his small hometown. But every time he brought up the idea, his parents responded with guilt-inducing remarks, "Why would you leave us? After everything we've done for you. Family comes first. You have responsibilities here. You're being selfish for wanting something different." So he stayed. He took a job in the family business even though he found it unfulfilling. He kept his dreams buried and convinced himself that sacrificing his happiness was the right thing to do. But as the years passed, he started feeling increasingly trapped, resentful of the life he was living, yet terrified of disappointing his family if he chose a different path. Um, it took Michael years to recognize that the cost of trying to earn their approval was losing himself. He realized that love should not come at the expense of his dreams, and that staying small to fit in was robbing him of the life he truly wanted. Eventually, he made the difficult decision to break free. He quit his job, booked a one-way ticket, and finally pursued his dream of traveling. While his family initially disapproved, over time, they came to accept his choices. And most importantly, Michael no longer felt like a stranger in his own life. Ask yourself, are you sacrificing your happiness just to keep the peace? Many people stay in unfulfilling situations because they fear conflict or disapproval. But avoiding discomfort in the short term often leads to greater suffering in the long run. Are you afraid to pursue your dreams because of how your family might react? If the fear of disappointing others is stronger than your desire to follow your heart, it may be time to reconsider whether their expectations align with your truth. If your love must be earned through suffering, is it truly love? Love should be unconditional, not based on how much you are willing to sacrifice. True love allows space for individuality and personal growth. Part 2, Breaking Free, Reclaiming Your Power. Number 1, redefine family, embracing the people who truly matter. Family is often defined by blood ties, but in reality it is much more than genetics. True family consists of those who stand by you, uplift you, and love you for who you truly are. It is about the people who actively choose you and whom you choose in return. Some of the deepest, most meaningful relationships you will ever experience may come from those who have no biological connection to you at all. This shift in perspective is essential, especially for those who have experienced toxic relationships and relationships within their biological families. The traditional idea that family is everything can sometimes lead to immense pain when those ties become a source of suffering rather than love and support. Recognizing that you have the power to redefine family allows you to create a circle of people who genuinely care about your well-being. What to do? 1. Build your own support system. Your true family is made up of those who encourage you, understand you, and accept you without conditions. These are the people who celebrate your successes, stand beside you in times of hardship, and never make you feel unworthy. Seek out friends, mentors, and loved ones who bring positivity into your life. Nurture relationships that are built on mutual respect, trust, and kindness. Invest time in people who genuinely care for your happiness and well-being. Sometimes these individuals may be close friends, a supportive partner, or even a mentor who acts as a parental figure. The bonds you cultivate with these people can be just as strong, if not stronger, than any biological connection. Stasta 2. Set clear boundaries with toxic family members. If a family member continuously disrespects you, manipulates you, or causes emotional distress, setting boundaries is an act of self-preservation. No one is obligated to endure harmful behavior simply because of shared genetics. Identify the behaviors that negatively impact your mental health. Communicate your boundaries clearly, whether it means limiting interactions or cutting off communication altogether. Protect your peace by prioritizing relationships that are nurturing rather than draining. Setting boundaries can be difficult, especially when societal expectations pressure you to maintain relationships with family members no matter what. However, prioritizing your emotional well-being is not selfish. It is necessary for a fulfilling and healthy life. 3. Accept that walking away is an act of self-love. Leaving a toxic family relationship does not mean you do not love them. It means you love yourself enough to refuse to suffer unnecessarily. Many people struggle with guilt when distancing themselves from toxic relatives, but choosing your peace over pain is not an act of cruelty. Understand that love does not mean enduring mistreatment. Forgive, not for them, but for yourself, to release the burden of resentment. Embrace the idea that healing often requires stepping away from those who cause harm. Walking away can be a painful but necessary step in reclaiming your happiness. It allows you to focus on relationships that nourish your soul rather than deplete it. Redefining family means embracing the people who truly care for you and letting go of the idea that family is solely determined by blood. Life is too short to spend it in the company of those who make you feel unworthy or unloved. By surrounding yourself with supportive, loving individuals, you create a family that is chosen, not by obligation, but by genuine connection. Number two, heal the wound of rejection. Rejection is one of the most painful emotional experiences we face as human beings. It can make us feel unworthy, unseen, or even unloved. Whether it comes from a romantic relationship, friendships, family, or career opportunities, rejection leaves deep scars. However, healing is not only possible, but necessary for personal growth and inner peace. The journey begins with recognizing that your worth is not determined by the opinions or actions of others. When we experience rejection, our brains react similarly to physical pain. Studies in neuroscience have shown that social rejection activates the same regions in the brain as physical injury, explaining why it can feel so intensely painful. The lingering effects of rejection can lead to self-doubt, fear of future rejection, and even avoidance of new opportunities. This is why healing requires conscious effort and self-compassion. Practical steps to heal. 1. Self-validation. Rejection often makes us seek external validation, hoping that someone else will affirm our worth. But true healing comes from within. Start by reminding yourself daily that you are enough, regardless of who accepts or rejects you. Practice self-affirmations such as, I am valuable just as I am. My worth is not defined by others' opinions. I deserve love, respect, and kindness. Over time, these affirmations help shift your mindset from self-doubt to self-acceptance. 2. Therapeutic practices. Processing rejection takes time, and therapeutic practices can be incredibly helpful. Journaling. Writing about your experience can help release emotional pain and gain clarity. Try writing a letter to the person or situation that rejected you, not to send it, but to express your feelings freely. Meditation. Mindfulness meditation allows you to observe your emotions without being consumed by them. A guided meditation on self-compassion can be especially healing. Professional therapy. If rejection has deeply affected your self-esteem, working with a therapist can help you rebuild confidence and navigate emotions in a healthy way. Number 3, spiritual perspective. From a Buddhist perspective, attachment to others' approval is a major source of suffering. The desire for validation creates a cycle of craving and disappointment. By letting go of this attachment, we cultivate inner peace. Practice non-attachment. Understand that rejection does not define your true self. People's opinions are shaped by their own experiences, biases, and limitations. Embrace impermanence. Everything in life is temporary, including rejection. What feels painful today will fade in time, making way for new opportunities. Send kindness to yourself and even to those who rejected you. This practice softens resentment and fosters emotional healing. Healing from rejection is not about becoming indifferent or emotionally numb. It's about developing resilience and understanding that rejection is part of life's journey. Every great leader, artist, and thinker has faced rejection. What sets them apart is their ability to rise above it. Your worth is not measured by who accepts or rejects you, but by how you see yourself. Let rejection be a stepping stone, not a roadblock, on your path to self-love and fulfillment. Number 3, choose growth over guilt. Growth is not just a destination. It's a journey. And along the way, you will inevitably have to make choices that may feel uncomfortable. One of the hardest choices is deciding to move forward, even when it means leaving certain people, habits, or mindsets behind. Growth often requires stepping out of familiar spaces, even when doing so stirs feelings of guilt. But guilt is not a reliable guide. Growth is. Imagine a butterfly refusing to leave its cocoon because it does not want to upset the caterpillars. If it stays, it will never fly. You are meant to fly. Many people experience this struggle. When you start changing, whether it's improving your health, advancing your career, deepening your spiritual awareness, or simply setting better boundaries, you may find that not everyone is supportive. Some people will resist your growth because it reminds them of their own stagnation. Others may fear losing the version of you they have always known. This is where guilt creeps in. You may feel guilty for outgrowing relationships, guilty for setting boundaries, guilty for prioritizing yourself. But guilt is often misplaced. It stems from a desire to be accepted, to belong, to not disappoint others. However, true belonging cannot come at the cost of your own evolution. Many people mistake staying the same for loyalty. They believe that if they change too much, they are betraying their past, their culture, or the people who once surrounded them. But real loyalty is not about staying stagnant to make others comfortable. Real loyalty is honoring your own potential and embracing the path that calls to you. Growth is a natural part of life. Trees shed their leaves in the fall, rivers carve new paths through the land, and the sky changes from dawn to dusk. Everything in nature evolves. So why should you be any different? If a butterfly stayed in its cocoon, it would never experience the fullness of its transformation. It would never stretch its wings, never feel the wind carrying it to new heights. Likewise, if you allow guilt to hold you back, you risk remaining trapped in a version of yourself that no longer fits. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean you do not appreciate the people or experiences that shaped you. But just because something was part of your journey does not mean it is meant to stay forever. Some friendships, habits, and beliefs serve their purpose and then must be released. Instead of feeling guilty for moving forward, remind yourself that your growth can inspire others. By choosing to evolve, you give permission to those around you to do the same. Some may follow, some may not, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk every step of your path with you. When guilt tries to pull you back, ask yourself, am I shrinking to make others comfortable, or am I expanding into who I am meant to be? The butterfly does not apologize for its wings. Neither should you. To those who have been cast aside, misunderstood, or rejected by their own families, your worth is not defined by their inability to see your light. You are not broken. You are not unworthy. And most importantly, you are not alone. The pain of being labeled the black sheep can be heavy. But understand this, you were never meant to blend in with a flock that could not recognize your strength. You were always the lion, the one they feared, because you refused to conform, refused to be silenced, and refused to live a life dictated by their expectations. You do not need their approval to be whole. You do not need their acceptance to be at peace. Your existence, your journey, and your growth are valid with or without their validation. True belonging is not about forcing yourself into spaces that reject you. It is about creating spaces where your soul is welcomed, cherished, and free. So rise, reclaim your power. Build your own family, whether through kindred spirits, deep friendships, or a newfound relationship with yourself. Love yourself enough to walk away from anyone who makes you feel small. And above all, never dim your light again. Shine unapologetically, for you were born to be radiant. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Buddhist Mindfulness for more content on spiritual healing, self-empowerment, and finding inner peace.